In this video, we'll talk about walls and continuous walls, normal straight walls and continuous walls, and also primarily about their reinforcement. Now, walls, if there's a straight wall, then you can just click on this button and just select any 2 points, and you will get a wall. And when you double click on it, it gives you the chance to enter the thickness of the wall, the top level, the bottom level if you want. Other things like you can give start and end offsets. You can even create certain cuts at the top if you wish, but this is not our scope at the moment. There are some properties which you can set. Primarily, you can use presets as well. So you can create a single wall very easily. If you have, by the way, if you have a single wall, then you can also use these handles over here, for example, to click on that wall and maybe move it 1 meter ahead, like that. Instead of redefining the points, you now have the direct handles to do that. If it's a continuous wall, like something like this, then you can have different situations. And so, for example, let's click on the wall. First of all, let me show you some settings. So let's click on the shift button and open it first. This is the way it will normally be. It'll normally be, no, this is not the way it's going to normally be. Normally it will be something like this. Create divided walls and do not convert into a single wall. And I'll show you about what they mean. So let's keep it like that. Create divided walls and say OK. Now let's click on the icon. Go in there. Go like that. Go like that. Go like that, and then we can right click, and when we right click, the continuous wall is created. Now if you notice, the continuous wall is actually made up of 3 separate objects, and that's because this is what that setting meant to create divided walls. Now why we would want that is when we want different part marks or assembly marks for each one of these walls. So we could do that. But if you notice over here, we don't have a problem because they're kind of going one inside the other. But in another, let's just select one and say delete. And when we say delete, the whole set gets deleted. But had we done something like this, for example, from here to here, and then from here to here, and then from here to here, and then right click, then we would have had a problem. For example, you see that those endpoints are not really, I mean, this is an impossible situation to match up for that. Once it goes through, then it basically goes through that, and you have to either apply some cuts over here or move it around a bit. But in the end, it's a difficult process. So what you could do in that situation is go back into the settings, and instead of saying create divided walls, you could say convert to a single wall, like that. Apply and OK. And in this case, even if we had something like this, for example, we would have our continuous wall, but in this case, it would all be a single object. You could manually still make them separate objects, but then you will need to do all that end cutting by yourself, and then you will have 3 separate marks. If that's not very important for you, then it's better to do it like this, as a kind of a folded plate, if you will. And you can then double click on this and make changes as well. Now you can also use the normal folded plate command in COMOSYS, which will allow you even more flexibility. If you know that under the steel menu, you can always convert it into concrete. Under the sectional plate or under this plate section over here, there's a folded plate option. And if I do that, then I can do something like this, for example, right click. It creates a little very thin steel plate, but we can easily change that. Let's give it a width of 5 meters and a thickness of 500 millimeters and call it front. So yeah, so we can get a folded plate, a folded wall like that as well. And then all we need to do is basically make sure that it is the plate usage is set to cast in place concrete. That's going to allow the merging of the parts on the drawing side. But what this also allows you is some more flexibility regarding the thicknesses. So if you double click on this one, if you come to this tab over here, you can say a thickness of 500 and then a thickness of 1000 and then a thickness of 500 again. And this will allow you basically something like this as well. So there's a lot of flexibility which this one will allow you. And so you can do any way. You could either have a strategy of different walls, in which case you would need to do the end cutting yourself, or you could get a single object either through the folded plate command or through the continuous wall command as well. All these are possible options. So now let's start talking about the reinforcement rebars of walls like this. So if you come down to the container rebar macros, over here there's the wall reinforcement macro. Now you will see other wall reinforcement macros over there as well. This one is the one we want at the moment. This is for continuous walls like this, which are not closed, which are open. If the wall is closed like the one you see over here, then you use the closed wall reinforcement. And if it's a shear wall, because shear walls have special requirements, they've got these zones at the end where you have special rebars, they're like hidden columns inside the inside the shear wall. So that's also separate. But at the moment, we'll be focusing on the this one in the middle. So as always, just press the Shift key and click on this icon to see the settings. And it's a good idea whenever you're learning about a new macro to come to the General tab over here and make sure auto is turned off. And then you can turn on these one by one to see how each one works. So let's just keep it like this for the moment. The figure tab gives you detailed input over here, but what you will most often use is the figure short, because this is the one which allows you to change the most frequently changed parameters, things like diameter and spacing and end conditions. Those are the most frequently used parameters. So you will get the same input in over here as well, along with other things which you might need to enter. So if you wanted to enter something in detail, like the color of the rebar or the parent type, or usually these things will be set by the macro automatically, but just saying. So normally, in most cases, you will just need to work with figure short. Cross ties we'll get to later, starter bars we'll get to later, conforming to objects we'll get to later. At the moment, let's just focus on the figure short. And if you notice over here, there is the inner, there's a terminology, there's inner rebars and there is outer rebars. So inner main, inner secondary, and then there's outer main and outer secondary. These four you can see over there. And then there's end conditions over there. We'll get to those in a second. So inner main, the inner mains are basically the ones you see as the blue dots over there along this line, and the outer mains are the blue dots on the other side. You see those blue dots. And the secondaries are the brown lines which you see like that. Okay, so I have for the moment made a few changes with the end conditions of the inner main, end conditions of the blue dots, and the end conditions of the outer blue dots. And I've basically said that the end conditions should say do nothing, which means that the bar will just come up and end. So let's just see what happens. Let's see how it works. I'm keeping it like this and saying apply. So do nothing over here, do nothing over here. You can try other things as well, but let's just see what this does for the time being. Apply OK. And now I'll just show how you actually use this, because it's a bit tricky. So you click on the wall reinforcement icon, then it'll ask you for the wall. If it was multiple pieces, you could have gone select the first one, right click, select the second one, right click, select the third one, right click, and then finally right click once more to end the selection of the walls. But if it's a single piece, then you will just need to do like select this one, select the whole thing basically, and you right click, and then there is no more, so you right click once again to finish the selection, and then it asks for a start surface, and this one needs to be either this one or this one. So the starting surface where the wall starts, not the top, not the sides, not the bottom, but this starting surface. So let's just choose this one, for example, and then it's going to ask for the ending surface, and then we can show it the other side where the wall ends basically. And then after you've chosen the start and the end, it's going to ask for an inner surface. So if you come over any one of these, you can show the inner surface. You can usually, it's a good idea to show the one near the start. It could be any one of these. But let's just, so there's an inner side and then there's an outer side. And we'll have the settings for those. And so to tell the program which one is the inner side and which one is the outer side, you can just select this inner one over here. And once you do that, immediately the rebar is placed. And you can just move your mouse wheel forward and back to get a refresh. And then right click and say interrupt to get out of the command. Now, if I press this 0 button, we will see it from the top. So let's go in and zoom in and see what it's done. Now, you see that these are some bars which have come up. Let's hold on a second. Let's see it like that. So there's the vertical yellow bars, the horizontal green bars, and then there's the cyan bars horizontal, and the vertical ones is a slightly different shade of yellow perhaps. But let's once again look at it from the top. So we zoom in, we keep going like that. And we note, there's one thing you can notice over here, because the side lengths are different. So this one over here is actually going all the way till the end, till over here somewhere, those bars. And it has automatically calculated the range for this bottom one over here, because this one kind of ends earlier. So it's over here. There's a bar at the corner over there as well, by the way. But there's one thing which you notice, that these bars obviously are not aligned. So this bar is not aligned with the slight horizontal mismatch over there. And that's understandable because the lengths of the surfaces are different. We can see the same thing over here as well. So we've got these rebars. Let me turn off the handles so that they don't confuse us. So there are these rebars over there. And they are going all the way till the end over there, and they're going all the way till over here. And then there's this one which is continuing on the other side. And once again, we see that slight mismatch because of the different surfaces. We see that these are also not really aligned. So this one is coming over here somewhere in the center of that. Okay, so that is the first thing which we notice. It has placed them very nicely. It has automatically extended these inner bars inside, extended this one over here. This one is coming over here, like it's turning inside the formwork. This one is coming and it's turning into the other one. So very nicely placed bars. The only problem I have right now with them is that if I were to place my cross ties along this this wall, then they would not be perfectly aligned. Now, to do that, what I can do is I can either do it manually, of course. There's always these operations which I can use. But what I can do is I can select any bar, press M twice, and go to my original macro over here, and turn this off, and I can say align the rebars for cross tie generation, this one, under the general settings. And if I say OK, you will see that this one is now perfectly aligned with this one. This one is perfectly aligned with that. That one is perfectly aligned with that. And then that's continuing. But on this side also, this one is now perfectly aligned with this one. This one is perfectly aligned with this one. So it's a lot easier for us now to put the cross ties. Actually, what we could have done was we could have chosen a thinner wall. It would have been easier to see. I made this a bit too thick, but we get the idea over here. See, they're perfectly aligned over here, as you can see. So here I've made the thicknesses of the two walls equal so that it's easier to see how well aligned these bars are. And if you wanted to enter any cross tie, for example, manually, you could be able to see that as well, that this is at exact 90 degrees. If I were to select this one and this one, once again they're aligned. And if I were to go there and select this one and this one, once again you can see that it's perfectly aligned. So that's an easy way of, let me just undo those, of aligning the rebars. And it's very beneficial because if you're working with three-dimensional modeling software, and these kinds of little things of alignments and all that, that's what really bothers you, because initially the software will give you a start, but once you get into the nitty-gritty of detailing, you realize that some things are not the way you would draw them out in 2D drafting. But with COMOSYS, it's really very simple. So now that we've aligned the rebars, we can go back inside the macro, press M twice, go inside, and go to our cross ties, because we have aligned them, like I said. Go to our cross ties. Now it does say put cross ties, but you don't see any cross ties, and the reason for that is that you have to go inside this little dialog box over here, and you have to set the placement data. And you need to go inside and you need to choose a placement method. And we've discussed this with other macros as well. You can have odd numbered cross ties or even numbered cross ties, or you can say put one and then skip so many. So let's try put one and skip so many. So let's say put one cross tie and then skip two, and then put one again and put two and skip two again. So let's just try this particular method. Let's go like that, say okay, and go like that. And immediately we see our cross ties on. So it's going to put one. It's the starting point will vary depending on how the surface macro has been arranged. So it's put this one, then it's skipped two, and it's put this one, and then skip two more. Put this one, skipped two over there. So you can, or you could just say put all the odd ones or the even ones, or put one and skip three, or any which way basically which you want. If you see anything missing, or you feel that, because when you align these, this one is finishing over here, so the last cross tie is over here, and maybe you want one over here as well, so you could just put that in manually, or you could maybe have a different scheme for the cross ties. So very quick and easy way to set up the cross ties in your wall. If you notice from this particular view, you can see that the cross ties are starting right at the bottom of these longitudinal rebars and going all the way up to the last point. If you wanted to give them a little offset, so they start like say 50 millimeters from the top or 50 millimeters from the bottom, you just need to select, press M a couple of times, and go back into your wall reinforcement macro. And inside the cross tie, where you go and set the cross tie, you can actually select the placement data over here. Go to the figure, and over here you see that there are three regions where you can place. Right now it's using the middle one only, so you can give an offset of 50 millimeters at the start and 50 millimeters at the end. We change the spacing as well to 300, and maybe change the diameter to 8 millimeter bars. Say okay, and say okay, and you will see that the cross ties have been shifted slightly up, and the spacing has also been increased a bit. If you wanted, for example, these cross ties to have a 135-degree hook on both ends, because that's not the default, but if you wanted that, then you could still go back into your wall reinforcement macro, go to the cross ties, and inside I think it's the data this time. No, not over there, sorry. In the placement, I guess. No, not over here. Let's see where it is. Okay, let's see. Let me find it. Yeah, I think because we're using the midsection, we can go in over here and go into the data. And in the hook, we can say, obviously these are by default turned on, but we can give both the start and end angles to be 135. and say okay, okay. And when we do that, we will see that the hooks of all the cross ties have been made 135 on both ends. Now, if we had had a foundation under this wall and we wanted some starter bars to come out of the foundation to match up with the vertical bars of the wall itself, what we could do is we could go into our settings once again, just press Shift, click on the button, and so we already discussed align bars for cross ties, but we could also select this one, select the foundation below. You can check this one. And then for starter bars, make sure that your put starters is turned on, and whatever settings you want to do over here for the embedment length, stuff like that, you can do from over here. I'm not going to repeat all of that because you're familiar with the surface macro. So it's either the multiple of the bar diameter or it's a total length, which you can specify, and then you can give the exact detail. Now, once after having set up this by ticking this box, you can just press on apply. Okay, and now if you go back into the wall reinforcement, it asks for the wall, right click, once again to tell the no more walls. Now it asks for foundation objects. So we can select the foundation one and right click, and it's still asking for more foundation objects. I can right click again. Now it's asking for those standard start surface, end surface, and then an inner surface. And the moment we do that and right click and come out of it, we can see that if you press the 0 button, we can see that the starter bars have been created. We can of course make modifications manually into this one. We can maybe, if we don't like this clash, if we feel bad about it, all we need to do is just turn on our handles, just select this one, and just use the handles to just lift it up a bit, for example, if you don't like this clash. Normally you could leave it open as well. But the beautiful thing over here is that in a few clicks, we've managed to enter our bars. I've turned the cross ties off just to make it clear. And we've managed to create the starter bars, which are in perfect harmony with the actual vertical longitudinal bars which we had. So whatever changes we make to the spacing over there, these starter bars will always follow that. Now, a lot of times we have elements, in this case, some columns maybe, which might be going through the wall or located at a place which intersects with the wall. And the columns will obviously have their own reinforcement over there. So you don't want the longitudinal bars which are coming up to get mixed up with the column over there. Or maybe you do, then in that case, you don't need to worry. But if you don't, if you want to empty out this area, for example, where the columns are, what you need to do is you need to go into your, this is a topic which is related to the this particular operation on surface rebars, conform rebar to formwork objects, which we've talked about elsewhere. But for the moment, I'm just saying that you go press Shift, open your wall reinforcement. This one, align is on, select foundation is on. If this one, there's a tab over here called conform to objects. And if you turn it on, it will ask you to select the objects which kind of get in the way of the wall reinforcement, and it will kind of clean up the wall reinforcement in that area. So let's just click on that, keep this one ticked on, and say apply and OK, and go back into our wall macro, select the wall, right click again, no more walls. It's asking for foundation objects now. Select the foundation, right click once more to finish the foundation. And now it's asking us to select the objects to which the wall reinforcement needs to conform to. So you select the column, right click, select this column, right click, and then right click again to finish the selection of such objects. Now it's asking for the start surface, which we are now used to, the end surface over here, and then the inner surface, like that. And basically, if we just do a refresh, right click and say, we will see, if we look at it from the top, we will see that the wall vertical reinforcements are coming up to the column, and they have stopped short and they're continuing after the column, because what they're assuming is that you will now have. So for example, we could go into our polygon reinforcement. This is a topic for another video, but we'll just do it. We'll just select the column, right click, put some reinforcement in there, and select this one, column, and right click, put some reinforcement in there, look at it from the top. So we see that we have our own column reinforcement in that area. So these ones have been conformed, have conformed now to the presence of this particular column, and that's very convenient. We can easily make these kinds of modifications from within the wall reinforcement macro, and that really gives us a lot. If you notice, even the starter bars have moved away because the column is now going to have its own starter bars, perhaps. So those will be different. That will depend on where the column vertical reinforcement is. That will depend on the exact location of these reinforcements. So the column will have its own starter bars going into the same foundation, but the starter bars of the wall have pulled back. So a very nice feature to have, very convenient, very useful, and it really facilitates and makes the modeling of such walls very, very easy. Another very nice feature of this wall reinforcement macro is that sometimes your walls might run through several stories, and obviously you can't have a bar 15, 20, 30 meters long. So you want to have splices in those longitudinal rebars. And for that, if you go back into, press the shift key and go back into the macro, so we're gonna keep the align bars on, select the foundation for the starter bars. So we've put the starter bars there. The conform, I've just left it out for the moment. But if you notice over here on the under the general tab, there is a button called pouring splices, and this will decide on how the wall will be poured. So if you click on that, you can add, I mean, I've just added two over here, but you can remove them, you can delete them, and you can add once again. You basically click on the add button, it asks you for a level. So let's just do that. So it asks you for a level. Then it asks you for the splice data. You can select a type of splice distance, a splice amount of 50 feet, for example. Click this one on, whether you want to shift the bars or not, etc. And when you do that, if I said okay, it would add that level over here. So I've already added two levels, 5 meters and 10 meters. You can add as many as you want. The wall is going 15 meters high, so it's going to have a splice at 5 meters and another one at 10 meters, and then the remaining ones basically. So once you do this setting, you can press OK, apply, and that's it. And you can go and actually click on the macro, select the wall, right click again to finish the wall selection. It's asking for the foundation objects. Select this one, right click once again, and now it's asking for the start surface, the end surface, and your inner surface. And when you do that, it's going to create your wall. But the only difference this time would be that if you click on any one of these bars, this is the starter bar. If you click slightly higher, this is the first longitudinal bar. But if you notice, it's not going all the way. It stops at 5 meter level, and then there's a splice with the next bar. And the next bar is over here, which is going further up, and it's stopping at the 10 meter level. And then after that, the remaining bar is continuing to the end of the wall. So very convenient, very fast to create your splices as well. If we go back into the menu, pressing shift, you will see that there's a horizontal splice data as well. So you can even splice your these bars which are going horizontal in the horizontal direction. You can splice them if it's a very long wall. You can splice those as well. So what this is, if you were to summarize, if I click shift and press the icon, we will just recall that we could align the rebars for the cross ties. We could generate the cross ties in whatever configuration we wanted to. We could generate starter bars. You could even embed the vertical bars directly into the foundation if we did not want starter bars. We just wanted to pull the longitudinal bars directly into the foundation. We could do that as well. We could conform to columns, for example, so that it cleans up the area where those objects are. We have complete control over the diameter and the spacing for all the inner main, inner secondaries, outer main, outer secondaries, and their end conditions, as always. So basically, you can more or less generate any kind of a wall reinforcement which you want. And if you still don't like it, or if you want to make minor tweaks, you can always go in and select a particular surface macro and add an operation to it, or just use the handles to, for example, you could turn the handles on, you could turn this on, and maybe you wanted to have another point, or you wanted to embed this further. That you can do obviously directly from within the macro as well. But let's say there was something which the macro couldn't do, or maybe you wanted to add an extra cross tie which the macro did not add. You could do all that, and literally in a matter of a few minutes, you would have your wall reinforcement ready. And finally, your wall could also have holes in it. You could have multiple holes in it, but the macro will find a way to work around those holes. So, for example, if there's a hole in the middle section of that wall, if I go and click on the wall reinforcement macro, select the wall, right click again, select the foundation, right click again, select the starting surface, select the ending surface and the inner surface, the macro will generate all the rebars. And we also had the pouring information of splices. So let me select this bar. You can see that that the starters are being selected. But if I select these ones, you can see that the pouring is at the 5 meter level, and then the next pour is at the 10 meter level, and the same holds for this side. So once again, if I click on that, you can see that this one is going to the 5 meter level, and even over here where the hole is, it manages to find that part, and then manages to continue on the other side where there's a small piece left, and then it continues after that. So all your input is respected. And if you, once again, like I said, if you don't like the results and you wanted to move the splice locations or something, everything is stored. It leaves behind this wall reinforcement macro, it leaves behind lots of surface macros. So this is a surface macro at the end of the day. If I just press M once, you can see it's a surface macro. You can see what operations have been done on it. If I go over here, list operations, you can see the operations which have been done on it. You can see the splice operation which was done, and you can double click on that, and you can actually modify those locations if you wanted to. So very nice to use. Very handy, and very, as you can see, it's very versatile as well. Once again, if you were to summarize, you can have holes, you can have columns running through, you can align the rebars, you can select the foundation and create your starter bars, you can conform according to objects, lots of features. It looks like a simple macro, but you can do a lot with it.